I have read 46 books so far this year, and I wanted to go over my top 10 favorites of the quarter. Starting off with And Stay Up by Christina C. Jones. This is book 1 in the High Stakes series. It is a standalone. This follows Asha and King. Asha's biggest dream is to compete in a poker tournament in Vegas, which is where this book takes place. One night, she is playing poker against this guy. She ends up beating him. They do a little one-night stand. And the next day, she is waitressing at the same casino when she runs into the guy that she played with the previous night. And it turns out that that guy is the CEO of the casino. Her brother ends up getting in some financial trouble. And being the oldest sister, she has to bail him out. So her dream of competing in this poker tournament is put on the back burner. She can no longer afford to compete. However, King knows that she is really good at poker and also has a thing for her after their one-night stand. He's like, why don't we sponsor you to go to this tournament? She's a little bit standoffish. She doesn't want to be indebted to anybody, but inevitably gives in because this has been her biggest dream, and why not? This one was really good, super suspenseful as well, and I just really love this one. And then I binged the Falling Away series by Penelope Douglas. My favorite book of the series was Rival, which is book 3, and this follows Maddox and Fallon. They're actually step-siblings. The beginning of their relationship starts with them being in high school, and their parents find out that their children are mingling. They put the wedge between them and separate them. So Fallon is forced to move away, Maddox stays, and their communication has been cut off. So when Fallon returns after being gone for those years, Maddox is super pissed off at her and kind of like bullies her in a way. When Fallon was away, she went through some really tragic things, and when Maddox learns about that, it's really dark, but this was their relationship of coming back together, and I really loved this one. Then we have Stealing Hearts by Lex Martin, and this is book 1 in the Wild at Heart series. This is like perfect for small town cowboy romance girlies like Elsie Silver. This one follows Rhett and Paige, and Paige has been in love with her brother's best friend Rhett her whole life, but Rhett is engaged to be married, and like that's not gonna work. So Paige ends up moving away. She ends up pursuing her career of teaching dance and cheerleading. That's her job. But she ends up getting injured on the job, and she can no longer work or cheer. Now she is jobless. So she has to move back town. When she moves back to town, she has nowhere to move to. So she ends up sleeping in her car, and Rhett comes across her sleeping in her car, and he's like, what are you doing? Come home with me. Which he's also recently divorced. He's a single dad now to 2 boys, and his ranch that he owns is in danger, I think like foreclosure. So he's in a little bit of financial trouble with that, and the only way to get out of that is to be married. Rhett asks Paige to marry him, and he's like, it's like a win-win, a little marriage of convenience. If you marry me, I get my loan so I can save my ranch, and you will get health insurance in return and physical therapy, and then you can go back to what you were pursuing. This one was so good, a great start to a new series, and steamy. Like Rhett's dirty mouth is chef's kiss. Another brother's best friend is Under an Endless Moon by A.L. Jackson. This is book 2 in the Moonlit Ridge series. Book 1, From Here to Eternity, is also a really amazing read, and I still highly recommend that one, but Brother's Best Friend is just going to hit for me every single time. This one follows Raven and Otto. Raven is ready to move out on her own because her brother from book 1 has just recently got married, and so she's like, it's time for you guys to have your own space, and it's time for me to like spread my wings and fly. So Otto opens up his place for her to stay for like the time being. Raven has always had a thing for Otto. Otto has as well, but he knows he could never pursue it because his best friend would literally whoop his butt. He tries to stay away from her as much as he can, but Raven, she's like, I'm going to seduce this man. I'm going to seduce him. So again, she's living under his roof and she decides to indulge in a little self-care moment. Otto thinks she's having a nightmare. He runs in to like wake her up, save her, whatever, and then realizes that she is flicking the bean. They make eye contact and everything, and she finishes with that. And from that moment on, he's like, whoa. This one was so good. We also have like a little suspenseful element within this one, and I don't know, I just really loved it. Moving on to a historical romance, Parting Gifts by Lauren Heath is one of my favorite reads this year so far. I already know it's gonna make it because this book was so good. Nothing like I've ever read before. So much heartache. So this one follows Maddie, and Maddie has recently lost her family and she is out on her own. This is a Western American historical romance and it takes place in 1881. So like a woman is really not going to be successful in this time period on her own. She has stretched every dollar she can and she's at her last limb. There's nothing else for her. She can't get a job, so she ends up going to this brothel. She's also a virgin, which is like a lot of money, you know. So she's at this brothel. She ends up selling herself. This guy pays $1,000 for her. He takes her back to his hotel, and at his hotel he's like, hey, listen, I just lost my wife 2 years ago. I'm a single father to 2 amazing kids who are now motherless, and I want them to have a mother figure. This will be a marriage in name only, nothing sexual out of it. Like, I just need a mother for my children. So Maddie ends up saying yes to it. They get married and they go to his inn that he owns. And when she gets there, she meets his brother. Her and the brother end up having a lot of chemistry, but she's really determined to make her marriage work because of what he has given to her as far as like safety and not having to sell her body and a fresh start with like a new life. We've got like the hardships of all of that, and this one was so good. Another one that's kind of like on the grief scale is The Best Laid Plans by Carla Sorensen. This one follows Burke and Charlotte. Burke has kind of just ended his professional football career after sustaining an injury. He's like brooding with that, and then he also just lost his best friend who was a football colleague of his, so he's dealing with grief, which his best friend left him a house, and this house is like a historical house that they were fixing up, and now he's left it to Burke for Burke to fix up. But Burke is not sure if he wants to do that or if he wants to sell the house. But when he gets to the house, he meets Charlotte, which is like the contractor, the person who is working on the restoration of this home. Burke and Charlotte end up kind of hitting it off. He is like the brooding grump. She is the quirky sunshine, and the tensions end up rising. It's kind of like a roommate situation, and they decide to indulge in a little friends with benefits situation. This one was just super sweet. I really enjoyed the like HGTV vibes in this one. It was a really fun read despite like the seriousness of the grief. Moving to more grief, we have the Edge of Darkness trilogy. So this is 3 books, okay? But I'm counting it as one just big book. This series is super dark. This is the first series that I've ever read by Leigh Rivers, and her writing is just amazing. This is one that you just fall in love with all of the characters, except for the bad guys, of course. You get everything, and I don't really know how to explain this series other than this is the best dark romance series that I've ever read, and this is just something that will stick with me forever. It'll also have you rooting for the underdogs so hard. We're following Stacy and Cade in this one, and Stacy and Cade were together in secret when they were in high school, which Cade is Stacy's best friend's twin brother, if I'm making sense. So we have a best friend's brother trope in this one. Something really tragic happens. Stacy and Cade end up being like separated, and then we kind of get their life told in like little spurts between past and present of kind of what this one moment did to them and just like completely shattered their world. And now these people are on two way separate streams, are going places that they don't want to go, but they don't have control of where they're going because they're the underdogs. And this one was just such an amazing dark romance read. I hope I'm doing it justice, but like if you read one thing from this video, let it be the Edge of Darkness series by Leigh Rivers, please. Another dark book I want to talk about is Under Your Scars by Ariel and Anderson. I guess a little bit of a spoiler alert. This one is marketed as a dark romance. However, it is not a romance because it ends in a freaking tragedy, okay? This one was really sad, really dark, but in this one we are following Elena and Christian. This takes place on like a small town island, I think like off the coast of like New Jersey or something like that. But there is a serial killer who's ran rampant in this town. He wears like a red mask and that kind of thing. And Elena she's an intern for the FBI. One night while she is leaving this job, she ends up being almost assaulted by these men. She's screaming for help when all of a sudden the red mask serial killer comes in and saves her. And from that point on, he ends up stalking her and has formed this attachment to her. But then Elena ends up falling for the CEO of the company, and she's worried that the CEO's life is in danger because of the serial killer. And she's kind of like balancing between those two because the serial killer is still like stalking her and actively coming into, you know, her room and that kind of stuff. And then we have her with the CEO who's like taking her on these extravagant trips and that kind of thing. This one was very tragic, but super good. This is one that's gonna like stick with me for probably forever. Another book that's gonna stick with me for forever is 4 Years Later by Emma Doherty. I think I'm saying that correctly. This is book 2 in the Becca McKenzie series, I believe it's what it's called. The first book is Four Doors Down. However, you don't have to read that one before you read 4 Years Later. Four Doors Down takes place with Becca and Ryan and them in high school, them being childhood friends, him kind of like picking on her being in a relationship with somebody else, and that kind of thing. So that's 4 Doors Down, basically. And 4 years later, Becca and Ryan are together, and they're in college now. However, they're doing long distance. Ryan is an amazing quarterback, and he is playing football out of California, and Becca is attending college in Texas and is doing very well there. But California football and Texas football, like the rivals are there. So one day at a party, Becca ends up being sexually assaulted by one of the football players from the Texas team, and he puts it on blast everywhere. Ryan ends up finding out in California, and then their relationship is really separated. This one, I feel like, is super realistic in the fact that of just dealing with the grief and the trauma of what being sexually assaulted does to someone, especially when it comes to like who's gonna believe me, and not knowing how to tell people that you were assaulted like that, because that is like the hardest part about it, is saying this happened to me. This one is more of like a woman's fiction, and it's Becca's journey of healing from the trauma that she had gone through with being assaulted, and this one was so good. And those are my top reads of the quarter. It wasn't 10, kind of, unless if you want to count the trilogy, then it's more than 10. Technically 9, whatever, but those are my favorite reads so far this year. I've read some other amazing books, but these are just the ones that have like stood out the most to me. That is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.